After the government develops a cure for the mutants and Magneto teams up with Jean Grey's alternate dark, powerful Phoenix, an all-out war ensues between the humans and mutants, and the X-Men must band together for one last epic stand. This is X-Men: The Last Stand. Hi, I'm Anthony, your host.
And I'm Mark, your other host.
And this is Buddy Movies, the place where buddies talk about movies.
We must band together for one epic last stand. This is X-Men: The Last Stand. I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did that. No.
I have to make it sound, as epic as possible. This is like essentially Return of the King.
Because the movie is just terrible. No.
I had to make this sound like this is Return of the King. This is the climactic final chapter of the original X-Men trilogy.
That's pretty much the problem with this movie.
We'll get to that in a sec. But first, I just watched The Suicide Squad for the first time on HBO Max.
I watched it the other night when it first came out. I was so pumped. It was so good.
This was completely... I did not know what I was going into this movie. It completely was unexpected. Everything that happened in this movie was not something I thought was actually going to happen. From just watching the first trailer, because I only watched, I think, one trailer for this movie. It was completely bonkers. The movie was completely bonkers, and I was okay with it. It was a lot of fun.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Because they had such a large cast of characters that they were advertising in the previews, and I was like, "Are they nuts? This is gonna what are they doing? This is insane!" And it worked.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't Nathan Fillion's in this movie. They have who's that guy from SNL? He's in it, and then Idris Elba is just so perfect. I kind of wish they had just made him Deadshot, replace Will Smith's character, but they went with a different character. But it was a different character. It was the same character. But yeah,
I love the
John Cena
play with John Cena. Yeah. Who else? Obviously, let's see here. I mean, obviously, Margot Robbie is crazy as ever, and they gave her more to do in this one than the other one. She was outstanding in this. She got a lot more action to work with, and I loved her action sequences. Oh,
yeah, it's just nonstop go, and I love that the mission actually kind of made sense this time. It wasn't just this awkward, weird. Yeah. Why aren't there other superheroes here? This is why there's not other superheroes here, because other superheroes want to go there. It just made sense. You
could actually.
You're not sitting there being "Where's Batman? This movie takes place in Gotham, and Batman's not showing up. What's going on? Why is that happening?" You're like, "Why?"
And just had more style too. It had just a lot more style. The cinematography was excellent. We were watching some behind the scenes because HBO Max provides some extras, and they did a lot of practical effects for this too.
Yeah, they did. They and the style carried through. That was the thing that I felt stunk about the first one, was that they started out with a stylistic beginning with the way they introduced the characters. They did this comic book, showing the characters, introducing who they were. And I liked that, but they didn't carry it through in the cinematography for the rest of the film. You know what I mean? They didn't have they did a similar thing with the Hulk movie, the first one, the Liang one.
Gotcha.
And, where they would show you, it would turn into comic book panes in the movie, and it would shift around to the different shapes that comic book panes take in the comic. And it was just awesome to have them show you 4 different screens of stuff going on, and you're seeing so many things develop. And they did that in Li Ang's movie. If they had done that in the other one, in the other Suicide Squad, then I think that would have helped carry through the comic book opening that they had, that kind of cut like that. But they didn't carry it through in the movie. They just did hey, we're having a stylistic opening, and then we're making a crappy movie where everyone's just fighting, and then you know what I mean? The pacing didn't make sense. The enemies didn't make sense in the first one, but in this one, it all made sense. You know what I mean? You weren't being told, "Oh, these are a whole bunch of terrible bad guys." You're actually dealing with they're showing you the terribleness. They did a lot more showing than telling in this one, whereas the other one, it was all telling and no showing.
Yeah, yeah, and the
It
pacing in
was
general
fun.
was better. It's just flat out, really all around. We're talking about the style, like the titles that are throughout the movie. Love
Mm-hmm.
those that they tie
Mm-hmm.
into the actual characters and the
Yeah.
tone and the mood of the movie. Like
And it was
just
just
a lot.
fun too. They weren't trying to
Yeah,
take themselves seriously.
yeah,
And the other thing is they didn't let continuity hold them back.
Hmm.
They weren't like, oh, we're trying to match up with all the other movies that Harley Quinn has been in or all the other movies that have taken
yeah,
place in this universe. They're like, no, we're just making our movie. We're doing what we want to do with it.
yeah. It can kind of
Deal with
stand
it,
by itself.
you
Yeah,
know? And I think it worked. And I think that's a real strength that DC has right now is the fact that they can just kind of do whatever they want with their movies because it's not really a connected universe as much as they want it to be. It's
hmm
not, and instead of like Marvel gets hammered on the fact that there's little tiny inconsistencies throughout their movies because
yeah,
they're trying to make everything knitted together so tightly. Whereas this movie can be like, we don't care. We're just making
right.
a good movie, and if they would do that, if DC would do that, I don't think they're ever going to pull ahead of Marvel because they're just a different horse at this game
hmm
at this point in the whole competition, whatever.
Yeah,
But I think that they can definitely stand on their own and do their own thing, like they
right.
don't have to. I mean, Shazam was amazing. Aquaman was solid. I'm really excited
Wonder
for
Woman.
Aquaman 2. Wonder
First,
Woman 1 was good. The second one
yeah,
was,
not so much,
um,
but
I'm excited for The Flash. I want to see
mhm.
what they're going to do with this Robert Pattinson Batman. I hear that they're in talks to make a Ben Affleck Batman movie as well. So
Okay,
Michael
I didn't
Keaton
know that.
is coming back as Batman in the Flash movie
Okay,
because the Flash does some time travel stuff, and he there's a comic called Flashpoint where he like screws up the whole universe and the whole continuity and everything by doing this time travel thing that he does,
I
which they showed
see.
him do in the Snyderverse. They showed
Yeah,
him do like a time travel
right.
thing in that, but he pushes it too far and goes back in time and changes some major things purposefully, and then
Yeah,
it screws up the whole timeline because he's not he. So
I
um,
see.
I think they're going to go with that route with it, and I think that's why Michael Keaton's going to play like an older, grizzled Batman.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see
Wow.
that
Yeah.
with Flashpoint, with the Flash movie. I don't know if it's Flashpoint, but
Yeah. Even like a standout character in this movie, I love Shark. King Shark, loved him throughout the whole movie. He was a standout for me. Like, he was
it was
good. So,
Sylvester
and so
Stallone too.
Sylvester Stallone, yes,
Sylvester
he was
Stallone. I
poison
was like,
him.
what?
Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah,
yeah,
and
it
very
was good.
violent. Like I love that they embraced the R rating with it. They didn't try to sugarcoat and try to make this a PG-13 movie when they really wanted to make it an R rating. Like they went for it, and I think
Yeah.
it paid off for them.
Yeah, I think with the last one, the first Suicide Squad's PG-13, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, because I remember watching it and being like, "Wait, it's PG-13. What are they doing here?" Because I
Yeah.
collected Suicide Squad comics. It was one of the
Okay.
because when I collected comics, I have a problem. I'm a completionist, so I want the whole
Mm-hmm.
story.
Right.
So I started with Batman, and Batman has like 4 different titles on his own. But to get the whole story of Batman, you have to also include everything in the Bat family. So that's Batgirl, Batwoman, Red Hood, Nightwing, Robin, and then the ones that kind of are like on the outside but still Batman-esque are Suicide Squad and Teen Titans and the Outlaws. So and Outsiders when that was around, but I think but still, so you have all these different group settings and stuff. So I collected the Suicide Squad, and yeah, when it was a PG-13, it just wasn't really capturing the seriousness of how messed up the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked what they did with Amanda Waller in this movie. Viola Davis knocked out of the park both times, but I feel
Yeah.
like in this movie they had some good characters around her dealing
Mm-hmm.
with like who she is as a character. I loved what they did with that.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Now James Gunn, he has done. I think he's the only director to work in both the DC and the Marvel, but both of them because he
I
did
think so.
Guardians 1 and 2,
Yeah.
obviously, and then now he's done the Suicide Squad, and he's doing Guardians 3 still. Now he's
Yep.
back in the
Yeah.
director's chair for that one. So
Yeah. So I mean, he's knows how to do the crazy ensemble stuff. It's pretty solid.
yeah,
I like what he's done with that. I love. It's just enjoyable. I don't know. Maybe on a second or third rewatch, I'll have more issues with it, but
yeah,
it was just good. It was good to watch the first time through. I wasn't walking away being like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they
mess it up again."
By the end of the first one, I was like lost interest because it was literally a typical comic book ending where you have this giant spiral light shooting up into the sky and you have to send someone in to sacrifice themselves to destroy this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how, and in this one, it was completely different.
Yeah.
And they took Polka Dot Man and made him a legit character.
He was actually pretty cool when they first introduced him. Like, really? But then by the end, it's like, this is actually pretty cool.
He's like the lamest villain. He's one of those villains who people are like, really? That exists? They made fun of him in the animated, the Lego Batman movie.
Okay.
They're like, oh, I got all these villains with me. I got King Shark. I got Killer Whale. I got Polka Dot Man. And they're like, you're making these up. Like the guy says, you're making these up. He goes, no, go check it out. Real villains. It's worth a Google. You know, like he tells the screen, go Google it. And yeah, I Googled it because I didn't know about Polka Dot Man. And no, he's a legit villain.
Yeah.
And, but they made him he was a good character in this movie.
He was good.
The actor, I forget what else he's done, but
I know
perfect. He was perfect.
I've seen him in like small roles in different movies. I know he had a small role in The Dark Knight, and Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners. He had a role. That's the only other stuff I've seen him in, like limited roles in some different movies. But he was good in this. Yeah. So
now that we've just spent the time talking about a comic book movie, maybe we should move on to
another comic book movie.
Sorry, Julie. She's the one who hates the comic book movies.
Yes, she's not big into comic book movies. That's all right. This one is X-Men: The Last Stand, the final chapter in the original X-Men trilogy that Bryan Singer, he did the first two movies, but then Brett Ratner directed the final one here. It was released May 26, 2006, written by Simon Kinberg, who wrote most of the original X-Men movies, written by him and Zach Penn, and directed by Brett Ratner. Did not get any nominations. It did gross $460.4 million worldwide on a $210 million budget. And with that budget, at this point in time, it was the most expensive movie ever made. So they had that standing for a little while. And so that's a quick backstory, quick facts on X-Men: Last Stand. I will dive right in here on my pros for this movie, I guess here. So this movie obviously is the final chapter, right? Or of the original trilogy at least. And it's all about this cure, about the government develops this cure for mutants, right? And the conflict.
Did they start it out saying it's the final chapter? Like, was that the whole plan originally when the movie came out? I feel like that wasn't the plan.
I think actually it was and I even rewatched the original trailer for this, and they built it up like this is the final. This is it.
Okay.
I don't think it was supposed to be this is the last X-Men movie you'll ever see, but of this kind of this story arc for these characters, this was going to be the last one from what I was getting.
All right.
But yeah, throughout this trilogy, the conflict has been fueled by the interactions between the humans and mutants, the humans being terrified and scared of the mutants, of them being too powerful, and you have Magneto's group causing havoc throughout the first two movies. And really, just the stakes are really high in this movie because you have this cure that humans want for the mutants, but the mutants themselves, at least most of them, do not want this cure. And they believe and fear that it'll be forced upon them. And that's where I really like that this movie is still relevant to this day. This is something like the X-Men movies have done because, I'm sure you're aware of like the allegories surrounding the X-Men movies about the cure and everything, about mutants, and the allegories with the LGBTQ community about, nothing being wrong with you. There's nothing to cure. And in this movie, it even honestly serves as an allegory for COVID and for the vaccine that we're dealing with right now because, vaccine, it's a cure for COVID. And at this point in time, there's some fear about it being, it's already starting. You can see it in a bunch of news outlets about vaccine becoming gradually more required in different workplaces and businesses and restaurants and stuff. Even some restaurants are now requiring you can't enter the restaurant and eat here if you're not vaccinated, type of thing. You have to show proof. And so this movie, over almost 2 decades later, I guess a decade and a half more like, is still relevant. And I think that's the hallmark of a good movie, is whenever years down the road, you can see themes throughout this movie that are in play in society today and things that we're dealing with.
This cure is voluntary. Nobody's talking about extermination.
No one ever talks about it. They just do it. And you go on with your lives, ignoring the signs all around you. And then one day, when the air is still and the night has fallen, they come for you.
Excuse me.
It's only then you realize what you're talking about, organizing and committees. The extermination has already begun. Make no mistake, my brothers. They will draw first blood. They will force their cure upon us.
And so that's honestly just the reason why I love the X-Men movies in general, especially the original ones, is that they had good action sequences. Like they're kind of campy movies. They're a bit dated. You look back at them and there's some, they're fairly cheesy in certain moments, and the action is very early 2000s-esque because it was made in the early 2000s. But there were still some really good themes in these movies, some great character development, character moments, and this movie I think was no different. It's filled with social commentary and relevant subject matter that is still relevant today. These aren't mindless movies. Mm-hmm. As far as
they're not really mindless movies. I would never, and I think that's one thing Ian McKellen even said about the X-Men movies, that when he critiqued other superhero movies, she's like, well, we weren't just mindless movies. He they
were saying something.
They were trying to say something. They were trying to make a point about certain things.
Right.
Which, I'll give them that they are trying to say something. They are trying to be. And when I watched it, I remember it being better than I remember. Mm-hmm. So I do remember thinking, okay, this is better than I remember it being. It's not as terrible as I remember, but we'll get to my stuff later. There are still some things that I'm very kind of upset about with this movie.
Okay.
But
keep the I guess as far as the characters go, I know one of the complaints of this movie by a lot of people is that it has some rush characterization, whereas the first two movies took a little more time with the characters, and this one's more action fueled and is very, very much more heavy on the action side. And I guess to some degree I can get on board with that, but for the most part, I feel like the character development has been set up in the previous movies, especially when you think of like the Dark Phoenix. Like her storyline has been built up from the first two movies into this movie. The whole second movie, Jean Grey was dealing with the she was suppressing, the Dark Phoenix throughout the entire second movie. And I think it's been a while since I've seen the first one, but I feel like they may have even started planting seeds of her character in the first movie too. So this has been built up for two movies going into the third movie with the Dark Phoenix storyline. So I don't feel like that storyline of hers is rushed in any way because they've set it up throughout the first two movies. So I don't see the problem with the Phoenix storyline here. And I think if you compare it with Dark Phoenix, I'm not sure if did you see Dark Phoenix?
No, I haven't wasted my time. I don't bother with crappy movies.
Please don't watch Dark Phoenix. This movie is miles ahead of Dark Phoenix. As far as the Dark Phoenix storyline goes, this one is still miles ahead of that one. I'm still not going to say this one's perfect in that regard, but it's still much, much better. And I think the actress, I don't know how you pronounce her first name. It's spelled
Famke Jensen.
Famke Jensen, yes. She's great in this movie. I mean, throughout the whole trilogy, she was good as Jean Grey. And I think, she's really good as far as communicating and portraying that power balance, that struggle, that inner conflict of the Dark Phoenix taking control in this movie. It takes full control in this movie, but Jean Grey is still in there, and she's able to communicate that throughout the movie. Like you see little glimpses here and there of Jean Grey still in there. And in general, I love characters that have DID or dual personality conditions. That's why I love like M. Night Shyamalan's Split. I love characters that deal with multiple personalities. So that's another reason why I just love this movie, is that it deals with the Dark Phoenix storyline, and I really like that. Big spoiler here, but whenever Logan at the end finally has to kill her, and you see that last little glimpse, he kills her as Jean Grey. He doesn't kill the Phoenix because he wouldn't be able to kill the Phoenix, but he is able to kill Jean Grey. And you just see that glimpse of her as she dies, and everything. But also from his character standpoint, he's a character who has lost a lot in his life. We've seen that throughout the first couple movies, and even Origins Wolverine, that's not so good as that movie was. We saw more of his backstory, his tragic backstory, and how throughout his whole life he's lost people he's loved, and obviously he's lost his memories and his identity, and so he just continues to lose in this movie people he cares about. And so that just kind of adds to his character, I think, too. And his character is just always missing something. And then in this movie, he loses the person that he loves also, Jean Grey. So I think it's just a great, powerful moment there at the end when he has to do something that he knows he has to do. As painful it is, he knows it has to be done. And yeah. And the other thing, as far as characters go, I love the dynamic between Magneto and Professor X, Xavier. Whenever Xavier, quote unquote, dies, I put that in quotes because of the post-credit scene here. Whenever he, quote unquote, dies, Charles is heartbroken by it. Like, he doesn't show it so much on the outside, but Ian McKellen shows just enough of it, especially whenever, I think it's Pyro, whenever he says a line to Magneto that he wished he would have had the chance to kill Xavier, and Magneto,
he's like, if you had told me to kill him, I would have done it a while ago,
Yeah. And Magneto just straight up puts his hand to his chest or something and says, Charles Xavier did more for the mutant community than you'll ever know. My only regret is that he had to die for our dream to live. I think that's his exact words there. Yeah. So he deep down, he cared for for Xavier. I mean, they were childhood friends. We get that in the later X-Men movies. There's a little bit of their backstory, and Magneto obviously has a tragic past too. So I love the relationship that's still there between them in this movie. Only other thing I had is that just this great action sequence. I think some may say there's too many, but I think they're very entertaining. We get to see a vast and diverse amount of mutants and their powers, more than we got to see in the previous movies. And it all culminates in this epic final showdown between humans and mutants. And we understand each side's motivations. We know that the humans are trying to protect themselves, but also the mutants are, trying to do the same thing. So it's this great power struggle and conflict, and it just works really well, I think. And just an entertaining final film, and that's what I had for X-Men: The Last Stand. I think it gets a lot more bad rap for it than what it really deserves. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but I think it's better than what people give it credit for. That's what I have to say. So here we go. What do you do you not like?
Well,
what do you not like?
Well, okay, I'll go for the easy side. I put my stuff in order because I was knew I was going to lose my mind if I didn't put it in an order, because I would just go everywhere.
Yeah.
It was better than I remember it being, and it did have certain messages and all that, but there's just certain things that take me out of the movie as a fan of X-Men. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of X-Men. I didn't collect their comics. My friends did, so I would read them off of them, but I told you earlier about how all involved Batman is. X-Men is that to another level, because there are literally 3 X-Men titles, at least at the time I was collecting, not even talking about the fact that there were literally other things like X-Force and Excalibur and, Generation X and all these different X titles. It goes to way crazier than even Batman does, in my opinion. So there's so much more to collect. So I didn't bother with that because I am a completionist with that. But so as a fan though, a fair weather fan of the X-Men movie, the X-Men story. I just really didn't like the characterization of Cyclops, Professor X, and Juggernaut, the three main ones in this movie.
Yeah.
Those were the three who I had issues with. I feel like with Cyclops, they never really got him. In the first two movies, it kind of wasn't his story. It was Wolverine's story, you know? But I felt like with this being Dark Phoenix, it was going to be Cyclops' turn to shine because it's his story. It's him trying to rescue her, you know? But instead, they still made it all about Wolverine. You know, they still made Hugh Jackman's story. So they literally kill him off very early on. And I know why. I know it was because Bryan Singer had gone in to do Superman Returns, and he took James Marsden with him. You know, that's why he wasn't in this movie very much. That's the legit reason. But I just feel like the character deserved better than that. You know, Cyclops isn't a punk. He's not this loser, which is what they kind of made him to be. He's literally he's a legit leader of the X-Men for a reason, you know. You know, you know, he's smart, he's resourceful, he's capable. I mean, this guy takes what is technically a second tier power and consistently pulls out A-list magic out of his butt with this power. Like, and his command ability to take the mutants that he has working with him and get them to work together and get them to strategize in an effective way. That's what they kind of missed with Cyclops here. So I just felt like they never really got to see Cyclops. As much as, she kisses him and she kills him, I honestly feel like that would have been, like, he would have found, they could have made him a better character by having him find a way to get away from that. I know she's so powerful and everything, but they could have shown him to be a better character by giving him some resourcefulness to get away from that situation, you know?
One thing I will say is a bit of trivia that kind of goes along with that. I found out that Rebecca Romans, who plays Mystique, and James Marsden, who plays Cyclops, both of their character roles were apparently reduced substantially whenever this movie ended up being rushed into production because Singer stepped down from directing, and so Ratner came in, and this movie was a rush production. And those two cast members ended up having scheduling conflicts with different movies, and so their roles had to be reduced in this movie. So so that definitely does not help matters when you think that he probably had a larger role in this, and they had to make changes.
So the Superman thing totally messed it up, but even for her, they still managed to get her character right. You know what I mean? They still managed to get her. So, like, and this is one thing that I thought was amazing in this movie I didn't notice before. So she gets shot. Okay. She becomes human. Okay. And then she informs the government about where his camp is. Oh, she gave us everything. There's nothing like a woman scorned. You know, hell has no fury like a woman scorned is what they say in this movie. She gave us everything, except she didn't give them everything. They walked into a trap. So even though she was human, she was still helping Magneto. She never betrayed him. I remember thinking that she betrayed him, but she didn't because the army walked into a trap there.
That's a good point. That was a very, you're right. You are right.
So I noticed that this time I was like, no, okay. So no, she's still Mystique. She's still being herself.
Even though she's technically quote unquote human now.
Because she's not one of them. And that's what I think is something that
there's something
that they messed up
about
here.
that.
Because the thing is, it's part of their genes, it's part of their DNA. So even though you suppress it, it doesn't actually change who they are deep down. You know, and they find out it is only a suppression. Right. It doesn't actually get rid of their powers completely. So, anyways, I felt like the movie didn't really respect Cyclops. And then there's they have Professor X in the movie and Juggernaut in the movie, and they don't take the time to deal with the fact that they're actually brothers in the comic books. So there's no drama there between them. They just kind of make Juggernaut this big idiot, but they ignore the fact that there's this whole history there. Juggernaut literally is not a mutant. He doesn't have mutant powers. He went and found a way to get superpowers. that was non-mutant way, and because he wanted to take revenge on his brother.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So when I forgot that they made him a mutant in this movie. So when he went to attack Kitty Pryde and she knocked him out by the fact that, his powers were gone,
right,
that wouldn't have worked on him. He would have been the perfect person to go grab the kid because he still would have had his powers.
Yeah.
So when Magneto tells Juggernaut, go get the kid, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense because Juggernaut's not a mutant. He doesn't actually, he just his powers are not mutant. So he'll still have his powers. But no, they made him a mutant. So that to me, the fact that I don't care if they didn't cover the fact that he's his brother or not, but they just really, I don't know. It was just kind of like there was more they could have done there. Right. And they didn't. And then they killed Professor X off. So
they did. Yeah.
They just which I don't know. My problems with Professor X isn't the fact that they killed him off, but that they had him be this dark guy who he shut down her powers. He controlled her. That's not Professor X. That's Magneto. It's the wrong character being the controlling a-hole there. It was just very.
He did it for good intentions because he knew just what this was, what the Phoenix was, and how destructive it was.
But that to me goes against everything he's done because he doesn't do stuff like that to Magneto. You know what I mean? He could have. Yeah. Okay, let me put it this way. There was stuff going on in the comics where they were trying to bring up this past of at the same time, and Professor X is darker, and so they were making him a darker character, and I feel like the movie went that way. But to me, they should have sown more seeds of that in the second movie, because when she started displaying all those powers, he should have been like, "Oh, crap, it's coming back. We need to shut this down," But Professor X did nothing about it, I guess he was kind of. He was distracted. He had been captured by, the bad guys. I forget what his name was. Stryker. Yes. So he had been captured by Stryker so there was that. But I don't know. I just feel like they could have done something more there rather than just have him be this dark person. You know what I mean? I was helping her. Have him be, I was helping her hide it. I was helping her suppress it rather than, I forced her into suppressing it, To me, it's okay. I don't like the fact that they made a forced thing rather than a helping her thing. Because like you said, it's a dual personality. So the Phoenix doesn't want to be controlled like that, Right. So now the Phoenix is dominant. The Phoenix has the control. Sure, it doesn't like Professor X because he's been doing that, but don't have him be doing it for a jerk reason. Have him be doing it because he was working with Jean to help suppress that side of her because of the danger it put her in, because it's not who she wanted to be, not out of a control thing. Okay. So to me, he went way too dark, way too fast. It's just boom. Oh, he's a jerk. The love triangle felt completely contrived. I feel like with there being a cure for Rogue, there was so much there that they could have done with that character. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Dude, she has a chance now to actually touch other people. Yep. Why wouldn't she want to go there? There was so much they could have dealt with there without having to deal with the whole, I'm losing my boyfriend because he can't touch me. Which, what? Come on. They could have done something better. I do like Kitty Pryde. She's a great character in the comics, and I just feel like they missed the opportunity to. They had the original X-Men in this movie, because the original comic, it was the very first comic. It was Beast, Angel, Cyclops, and Iceman. Those were the original 4 X-Men, and then Jean Grey joins them, and that's the first 5. And they didn't do anything. You didn't get anything to pay an homage to that at all. They didn't have to be the same characters. They didn't have to come in, but it would have been nice to see all 5 of them on screen at the same time in some form. This was a nice little hey, fans. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing was the distances they travel in this movie. Upstate New York, geographically. Upstate New York, San Francisco.
that's a little bit of the whole way
Zip,
across the
zip,
country
zip,
there.
zip. How
Yeah.
the heck did Rogue get there so fast? How did Bobby get there to look for her and then get back so fast? I get they have the jet, but you're telling
They
me
do have a
Bobby has
jet.
access. Bobby has access to that jet to get to
Yeah.
Alcatraz that fast. And then, I mean, I feel like they just wanted that Golden Gate Bridge scene, and that's why they placed it in San Francisco, which I feel could have been done just as well with, you know, George Washington Bridge. You know, they could have had Rikers Island in this. Rikers Island is the vault in Marvel, and it's where they keep all the superpowered prisoners. So they could have had that kid there, basically keeping all the superpowered prisoners powerless. It could have been like a dual use of the character. You know what I mean? So there were things they could have done. And then the last thing that bothers me here, and this is it. I know I'm going. Okay. Actually, no, I'm not going long. I'm good on time. Yay!
You're good. You're good.
The mutants, the X-Men used the weaponization of the cure, and they just gloss over it. So here's my thing: they used the weapon. They used the weapon that they made to basically bring the mutants into submission, to control them, to force the cure on them. They used it to take Magneto out. Now, some may argue, oh, it was necessary. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
They used the weapon that's supposed to be against them to do exactly what the bad guys, what the humans wanted to do with it. And I feel like they missed an opportunity for Magneto to point this out to them because they're like, he's like, oh no, I've lost my powers. And then Wolverine's like, yeah, you're one of them now. And Magneto could have been like, no, you are, because they're the ones who used the weapon against mutants. They're the ones who did that. Like, I feel it could have been better if they had Magneto trying to use it on people. If they had Magneto trying to take that weapon and then turn it against the X-Men. You know what I mean? Like, wait, this is a bad guy thing. This is a bad guy thing that was developed by bad guys. And now the bad guy is using it for his own gain, for his own purposes, you know? I mean, granted, he did let all the pawns go out and get slaughtered and turned into humans before anything. So he was kind of a jerk there. But I just feel like the whole characterization there, they kind of like they're not, it's not Magneto, but it's just like slightly off Magneto. It's slightly off Professor X, you know, like all these characters is like, it's just a slight miscalculation of who they are and what they're supposed to be about.
Yeah. But like Magneto's character, like in those movies, he's very, very pro mutant. So I can't really picture him using a gun to try to like like a cure gun, essentially, like to take out mutants so that they become human. Like I don't see him doing that.
I can't see him doing it either. But the fact that the X-Men did it is very telling, you know, the fact that they were willing to use this terrible thing that was created to ruin a mutant. You know, they're not, because the whole point is the fact that they're supposed to be both pro mutant, but just from different sides of it. You know, the one wants to work with peace, the one wants to do it violently. You know, they're supposed to be like this. I mean, when it came out back in the 60s, it was supposed to be like the idea of Martin Luther King Jr. versus Malcolm X. You know, that was the idea. That just different ideologies. And to me, it's like they're both pushing for the same thing. They just have very different methods. And it does, you know, come down to fisticuffs and fighting and, you know, action sequences. But I just feel like they didn't, I don't know, it just seemed off to me that the X-Men would use that weapon against Magneto, and they just kind of like, oh, yep, they used the weapon to beat him, and that's how they beat him. Yeah. That to me is like, that's at least, you know, they could have been like, man, what did I, you know what I mean? Like, they could have done it to him, and then they could have been like, oh my God, what do we do? You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe we just did this. You know, they could have regretted it. They could have had like something more than just like, oh yeah, we did it because we had to take you down, man. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's a valid point there. At first I was thinking, well, I mean, it was kind of Beast doing that. Maybe he did himself, but there was a scene like they actually planned that. So I think they definitely planned that, to have him sneak up behind him and do that because Storm brought the clouds in to create the fog and everything. And then Beast snuck up behind him, so it was definitely orchestrated there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hadn't thought about that before.
And I just think with the fact that it was supposed to, I mean, they came out with 7 of these movies now, not to mention that there's 3 Wolverine movies, 2 Deadpool movies, and a New Mutants movie.
Yes.
So what, that 3, 5, so that's 6 plus 13 movies in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the fact that this was only the 3rd installment, I feel like they just went way too final on what they were doing.
Yeah.
With the fact that no, they were definitely going to milk this for more, and everyone knew they were going to.
Yeah, I do want to correct myself on what I said earlier because I was just reading some of my trivia here. So Fox originally intended this to be the final X-Men movie that was featuring the original cast. But then, and they were going to do kind of something akin to the Star Wars franchise with possible spin-offs on individual characters, which is what they did with Wolverine. But then, like late in post-production on this movie, they reversed it. The studio reversed it, and Ratner re-edited it and reshot scenes to make this movie more open-ended. And so then after this movie got mixed critical and a box office reception, after the mixed critical and box office reception for Origins Wolverine, and they were originally going to do a Magneto origin story that never panned out. They just rebooted the franchise with First Class and was it 2011, and then they started that whole new series. So yeah, this was a very rushed. It was a troubled and rushed production, and you can definitely there's moments in here where you can that comes through. Like this isn't as refined as the other 2 movies, and it went through production hell.
I mean, I've seen the cartoon version of Dark Phoenix, in the 90s. Haven't read the comics on it, but you didn't really get the full story of Dark Phoenix here, and you didn't really get the full story of the kid with his mutant ability being able to shut things down.
Yeah, he is a very limited.
I just feel like you got 2 half stories that were kind of like pushed together, and then we didn't really sum it up or anything. Where did that kid go after this movie? He can't be near other mutants. No one's going to want him around.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, but he is a mutant himself. So it's like, to me, there just should have been, I don't know. It's just this weird thing that, I don't know. I just wanted more out of it. Yeah.
And I did read also, whenever Singer was originally going to direct this, the original story was you were still gonna have Jean Grey return, with the Phoenix and everything, and she would be manipulated actually into joining the Hellfire Club. I'm not sure what that is, but she was going to join the Hellfire Club, and then by their telepathic leader Emma Frost, they were planning to have Sigourney Weaver play Emma Frost, and then the plan was for a 3-way battle to occur between the Club, who wanted to take over the world, and then the X-Men, who wanted to save Jean Grey, and then Magneto's Brotherhood, who wanted the Phoenix for their own plans. And then at the end, Jean was going to kill herself to save everyone in the very end. Then her spirit would live on and transcend apparently into a divine being, which would become kind of compared to the Star Child in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So that was kind of the original storyline idea for this movie before Singer departed for Superman Returns.
Yeah, the Hellfire Club, they utilized them in X-Men First Class. That's Sebastian Shaw. And
Kevin Bacon.
And Emma Frost is the girl who turns into diamonds and stuff like that.
Yes.
So they have. So that's who the Hellfire Club is. They're, in one instance of them, they worship the Phoenix. I think that was in Ultimate X-Men. I think where they worship the Phoenix. So when Jean Grey started presenting Phoenix in that, they wanted her to join them because they were all about this legend of this Phoenix thing that was going to come in. So it was something like that in that version of the characters because, they reboot things and do different things. And there's so many mutants, so many characters. And I just feel and I love, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine turned out wonderful. It's a great characterization.
Iconic. Yeah.
but I still wish they would have focused more on the characters. Because when X2 ended, I was going out of my mind because I was like, oh my gosh, they literally found a way to flip the story and hand it off to other characters. Because X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, in my opinion, were all about Rogue and Wolverine. They were the two main X-Men that you focused on of that. And that's kind of how the X-Men comics go. You know, it's an ensemble cast, but you're mostly focusing on one or two characters through the story, you know, through like 6 comics.
Right.
And so for the first 2 movies, they were focusing on those 2 characters. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because in the next movie, it'll be all about Cyclops and Jean, and they can have Phoenix come back in the next movie, and then Dark Phoenix for the 4th movie, because that's kind of how it works. Is Phoenix, she comes back presenting these Phoenix powers, and then it goes evil, goes bad for them. Yeah. And then they can be all about Cyclops and Jean, and then they could do 2 more movies and have it be all about other characters. Like, they could do this forever. It's amazing. Right. We'll get so much X-Men, and they just didn't do that. I love the fact that we did get a Sentinel in this movie, kind of.
Yes. Yes.
And they showed the Danger Room. I love that they finally showed that in the movie. I like that we finally got to deal with the teenager versions of X-Men, because, you know, they were all adults. You know, they were seasoned fighters in the first and second movie. Whereas in this one, it's like, no, it's actually like the fact that it's teenagers and you got kids on this battlefield doing this. You know, they finally like, okay, yeah, we're dealing with other emotional things and people who are not confident in their powers, you know.
Exactly.
So I like that part of it. I just wish they would have. I just wanted a little bit more. Yeah. And the sequels afterwards were just so hit or miss.
So which ones did you like of those sequels?
First Class wasn't bad.
Okay.
I enjoyed it, but it also didn't totally match with what they showed. Like, the continuity gets a little wonky.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Days of Future Past.
I like that one.
So solid. It's so good. They kind of reset the timeline with that one.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Did. So they can do whatever they want afterwards, which I thought was a smart move, you know. But I really wish they would have aged the characters more. They kept jumping 10 years every time, and the characters aged like 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, it made sense where they started with, you know, Magneto and what's his name, and Professor X. And I want to say it was in the 50s. Maybe it was in the 60s. Was it 50s?
50s. I think it was the 60s, actually.
Okay. So they started in the 60s. They started there. That was a good spot. But they weren't old enough by the time they got to Phoenix. By the time they did Dark Phoenix, which takes place in the 90s, they should have been looking more like Ian McKellen and what's his name, and Patrick Stewart. But they weren't. They were still young and healthy and trying to find a way to make Professor X walk in all the movies. And, you know, it was just nonsense.
The continuity gets very, very messed up.
And then I will never, ever, ever forgive First Class for what they did with Darwin.
Is that the guy that Kevin Bacon kills? Like,
yes,
puts the
So not only did they, first of all, they killed a black guy, which is like so typical for Hollywood movies to do. They kill the black guy, but they gave Darwin's power is literally that he adapts to survive anything, and he has no control over the adaptation. Okay, he doesn't like choose how to adapt, but he adapts. He's literally unkillable. They took an unkillable character, and this is like his thing in the comics, and they killed him.
Killed him in a second, basically, like an instant.
Yeah. It should have been this thing like, adapt to this. Oh, crap, he did. You know, like, even if it was the fact that he adapted to it by turning into a puff of smoke or something. You know what I mean? Like, because he has no control over his adaptations in the comics, and that's kind of, they make a joke out of it, you know, a little bit. But he always comes back. He survives, and he adapts. And I don't know. I just wish they wouldn't have done that. Just have it be another character. Have someone else. I don't know. And then where the heck I got upset with the fact that they didn't have Nightcrawler in it either. And that's because they literally didn't want so much blue in the movie. That's what they said it was. Too much blue.
Too much blue because we got Mystique in there and Beast in there. So that would becoming like Avatar there. All that blue.
All that blue.
It did take place. Yeah, it did take place during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Was that the 50s?
Oh, that was you're talking about First Class now.
Yeah, when it went First Class whenever it was set.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
During I remember it was during the Cold War. So yeah.
Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah, 62.
So, okay, so it was early 60s. Okay. But yeah, I liked First Class. I liked Days of Future Past. Apocalypse is where it started going downhill for me. Didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And then Dark Phoenix was absolutely atrocious. And I didn't love Logan. I liked Logan. Logan was good. That was a good send off for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Yeah.
But the other solo Wolverine movie, the what was it called? The Wolverine
Origins, and then the Wolverine.
Yeah, wasn't a big fan of the Wolverine either. But yeah, so they it was unfortunate how it all ended because obviously like Dark Phoenix was produced whenever Fox got taken over by Disney, and so that production was just a complete mess, and it completely showed. So ended on a very sour note, whereas they were at the top of their game, during Days of Future Past. And then from there, it just went downhill pretty fast.
I really just hope that now that they recast Wolverine, as much as I like Hugh Jackman, I feel like, okay, no, he had a perfect send-off.
Yeah, don't bring him back. Please don't.
Don't ruin it by bringing him back. It would literally be like if they bring Tony Stark back, I don't know, just don't do it. Don't do it.
Just don't.
Let something end for once, and let it settle.
You diminish the ending. You diminish their death and their final scenes if you bring them back. Like it just takes away from what they did. I didn't even so I never that end credit scene for X-Men: The Last Stand. I did not see that the first time. I didn't see them in the theater. I left before that happened. So when they brought him back at the end of X-Men Origins Wolverine, because that's when they bring him back for the first time. And it was it was the Wolverine. When they bring them back at the end of the Wolverine, I was like, wait, what? How the heck is this happening? People were like, oh, because of the thing. And I was like, what? So yeah, I didn't see that end credit scene and went like 6 years without having seen it. Wow.
And then saw the end credit scene at Wolverine, and I had to go back because apparently the character is, because the guy who's in a coma there is like Charles Xavier's twin brother or something. Which is why he still looks the same. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, it just became so far-fetched there. It was just foolish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't like that end scene, that credit scene, to be honest. And I didn't even see it originally too. Whenever I first watched the movie, I don't think I saw it the first time either. I had to go back and discover, oh yeah, there is an end credit scene here. So yeah. Well, I got a little bit of trivia here. I kind of went through some.
Sorry, I brought us down.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We we mentioned, let's see, yeah, this film we mentioned went through a lot of different directors, searching for different directors whenever Bryan Singer stepped down to do Superman Returns, which he admitted that whenever he admitted that he regretted declining to direct this movie in favor of Superman Returns, confessing that he realized his mistake, quote, before I was watching the movie, The Last Stand, before I was watching the movie, during it, and after it. So he was not a fan of this movie either. He declined in favor of Superman Returns, and they that caused the rush production. Joss Whedon was actually approached to direct, but turned it down in favor of directing a Wonder Woman movie, which never panned out for him. And so this movie, it went through a very swift and rushed production from that. And also, Gambit was actually originally going to be in this movie. They were setting up, Keanu Reeves was apparently in the run to play Gambit, and also I heard Channing Tatum was also in the run to play Gambit. They were going to try to
Channing
include
Tatum
his
is still pushing to do Gambit. He still wants to play Gambit.
Yeah. And he was, I guess, Gambit was featured in Origins Wolverine. Channing Tatum didn't play him. He was in Origins.
Yep.
But yeah.
And they didn't do much with him, but he was there.
No, he was there. They didn't really. It was a pretty limited.
That whole movie was just like they were. It reminded me of Jurassic Park 3, in that they were just trying to show off how many mutants and characters they could put in the movie.
Yeah,
which
but not actually develop them.
Then not develop anything. Whereas Jurassic Park 3 was all about the dinosaurs. Oh, how many different dinosaurs can we throw in this movie? So
yeah,
because they had so many characters. They had Maverick, they had Blob, they had Deadpool. They have all these characters in this movie, but they don't really do it right.
Yeah.
Anyways.
The other thing I had was in the original script, the Golden Gate Bridge scene that you mentioned earlier. That sequence was actually going to be in the middle of the movie. Magneto was going to have it moved to Alcatraz Island to free Mystique, as this facility would have been revived as a special mutant prison. And then the final battle was to take place in actually Washington, D.C., which was set to be the home of Worthington Labs. And then Magneto's plan would have been basically to destroy the cure and take control of the White House at the same time.
Yeah.
But whenever Brett Ratner signed on to direct, he decided to change the bridge sequence to create a more dramatic final, epic battle climax, basically. So he moved it to the end, and then the script was rewritten to have Alcatraz transformed.
See, they just wanted that bridge in there. They just wanted the bridge scene because it was so epic, and they outdid it in a couple movies later with the stadium. I feel the stadium was way more impressive than from Days of Future Past, when he lifts up the whole baseball stadium and just lands it around the White House.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And also the last thing I had was the last scene, where Magneto is chess and you have that little chess piece move. The original intent here was to have Magneto regaining his abilities as he plays chess with a stranger who he discovers is Professor X in another man's body. But unfortunately, apparently neither were available for filming the scene together. And so instead they put two separate scenes in there with the film, and they bookended the credits with that. So, but
it's interesting.
That's what I had for trivia. This movie, you
like it. I don't.
I do like it. I think it's a pretty good send off. Like I said, not perfect. There's better things that definitely could have been done. There's also, I think, worse things, and I still love the Dark Phoenix storyline, and like I said, certainly better than what they did in Dark Phoenix. And I need to just go back and rewatch. Like, I want to go back and rewatch First Class and Days of Future Past because I really like those two. And
be nice if they'd get them on Disney Plus, but
that's true. Yeah, because they're technically, because they got Fox now. So
because I think they have X-Men, X2, X3, and then Apocalypse.
Okay, so why don't they have the others? If they have,
it's contracts.
Those.
They have contracts with other places that they got to finish out doing it.
Gotcha.
And apparently Disney, because I have to correct myself because last week I said that Disney doesn't do the have it on there and then take it off thing, but apparently they have done that for a couple things where they'll have a movie on their service and then they'll take it off because it's got a contract somewhere else that it has to go.
Okay.
So Disney has done that a couple times. I thought they weren't doing it, but
yeah, at least for the Marvel movies, I don't think they've ever done it. Like, I don't think there's been a Marvel movie that's disappeared from Disney Plus.
I don't think there's been a Marvel movie that's disappeared. There were some that weren't on it when they first started,
right.
Like some of the Thor movies and things like that weren't there right away. Okay. But once they got them, they haven't disappeared.
Right.
But yeah, I think there are like Fox movies and basically things that aren't really there, or Pixar. I don't know. I don't think there's any Pixar movies they've lost.
No,
but anything that they got in the Fox deals, stuff like that is still like coming on and then disappearing because they don't own the rights completely because they got to fulfill their contracts.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Well, that's X-Men: The Last Stand. You can let us know what you think in the comments. Did you like the movie, or did you not so much? Who are you siding with on this one? what's your favorite X-Men movie in the big franchise that it is? How many movies did you say it is?
13.
Yeah, that's a lot
If
of
you
movies.
include Deadpool and New Mutants, it's 13.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Which to me, Deadpool needs to be included because there are literally X-Men in that movie. I mean, Juggernaut's in the one movie too. Juggernaut's the villain.
That's true.
So to me, it makes sense to include it with it because they're including it. You got Colossus there, and we got our Colossus versus Juggernaut fight. It was just a CGI mess, but we got it.
Mm-hmm. We got it. Yeah. Well, next week we are doing Jojo
Rabbit, which for some reason you don't like.
I don't care so much for that one. We'll get into why next week, so stay tuned for that. That's our second Taika Waititi movie because we did Thor Ragnarok a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
So
I'm excited. We're coming down to the wire here. We are. I'm just going to go through the list here because we got Jojo Rabbit next week, and then we have Forrest Gump after that, and then Spider-Man: Homecoming, and then we're ending it out the season with The Dark Knight.
Ooh, ending out on a great note. Just what better note can you end on than The Dark Knight? Am I right?
Christopher Nolan and his terrible Batman characterization.
Nolan at the top of his game,
Nolan, you worship Nolan.
Should have been a Best Picture nominee. The only reason why it wasn't is because they had a limit of 8 and not 10, and they switched it to 10 the year after because they couldn't squeeze in The Dark Knight. Still bitter about that, just a little bit. It's all right.
Got a posthumous Oscar though. It did pull that off.
Yeah.
So isn't that the first? Anyways, we'll cover that stuff then.
We'll cover it. Yes.
It's going to be exciting. Yeah. Tune in for our later shows. Yeah. Thank you for joining us this week.
Yep. We'll see ya.
Have fun. Stay cool.
Thanks for watching this episode of Buddy Movies. If you like what you saw, you can click up here for more episodes. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to get the access to all of our latest episodes. And if you really like what you see, you can support us on patreon.com/buddymovies. Thanks for watching, and stay cool.